Alcatraz, known as the Rock, is one of the most infamous prisons in history. Located on a rocky island in San Francisco Bay, it was built in the 19th century and was initially used as a military fortress. But in 1934, it was transformed into a maximum security federal penitentiary. The redesign included tougher iron bars, strategically positioned guard towers, and strict security measures. This made Alcatraz the most secure prison of its time. The prison housed some of the most notorious criminals of the era, including infamous figures like Al Capone and George Machine Gun Kelly. Despite its intimidating reputation, and the fact that the prison was surrounded by the cold, rough waters of the Pacific Ocean, the idea of escape never completely vanished from the minds of the inmates. From the moment Alcatraz reopened as a federal penitentiary, escape attempts were frequent. Over its 29 years of operation, 36 men attempted to escape through 14 separate incidents. Most of these attempts ended in failure, with many escapees being caught or perishing in the attempt. But one case stands out due to its daring execution and the mystery surrounding its outcome: the escape of 3 prisoners in June 1962. Frank Morris, John Anglin, and his brother Clarence Anglin were the masterminds behind this escape. Frank Morris, a career criminal known for his intelligence in previous escape attempts, arrived at Alcatraz in January 1960. John Anglin joined him later that year, followed by his brother Clarence in early 1961. The 3 inmates, already acquainted from previous prison stays, were assigned to adjoining cells, which facilitated their plans. The trio's escape became one of the most famous and mysterious episodes in the history of Alcatraz. The planning and execution of their escape were meticulously detailed, showcasing their resourcefulness and determination. And despite their careful preparation, their ultimate fate remains unknown. On the morning of June 12, 1962, a routine bed check at Alcatraz revealed that the 3 men were missing. Their cells contained lifelike dummy heads made of plaster, flesh-tone paint, and real human hair, which had fooled the night guards. The discovery set off a massive search and launched one of the most intense manhunts in U.S. history. Authorities were baffled. How did these 3 men manage to outwit one of the most secure prisons in the world? And what happened to them after they escaped? These questions would lead to an investigation that continues to captivate people to this day. The meticulous planning for the Alcatraz escape began months before the actual attempt. Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin, the key figures behind the escape, were not content with merely serving their time behind bars. Their shared history of prior escape attempts and Morris's reputation as an escape artist set the stage for their elaborate plan. The initial phase of their escape plan involved preparing their cells. In December 1961, Morris and the Anglin brothers began their escape preparations by acquiring tools. They found old saw blades, which they used to cut through the steel vents in the back walls of their cells. These vents were crucial to their plan, as they would allow them to enter a common utility corridor behind their cells. Each inmate worked on their cell's vent with a meticulous care. They used makeshift tools, including spoons stolen from the prison mess hall and parts of a broken vacuum cleaner. They fashioned these into drills to bore holes around the vent covers, enabling them to remove the covers and gain access to the utility corridor. To avoid detection, they covered the holes with whatever materials they could find, such as a suitcase or pieces of cardboard. The utility corridor was a key part of their escape route. It was a common area behind the cells that was not closely monitored by guards. From there, the trio could move freely without the constant scrutiny they faced inside their cells. They climbed up through the corridor to reach the roof of their cell block, where they set up a secret workshop. On the roof, the escapees faced another challenge: constructing a raft and life preservers. They scavenged over 50 raincoats, which they stitched together to create a makeshift raft. The raft measured approximately 6 14 feet and was carefully assembled with the help of stolen materials and a steam pipe used to vulcanize the seams. In addition to the raft, they made life jackets from the same raincoats, which they inflated using a musical instrument converted into a pump. The roof also served as a site for storing and hiding their equipment. The men built and hid their tools, including a crude periscope made from discarded materials, which allowed them to watch for approaching guards. Meanwhile, Alan West, an accomplice who would not be joining them for the escape, contributed to their efforts. Although he had his own set of problems, his ventilator cover was not fully removed, preventing him from escaping. West was instrumental in providing information about the plan and assisting in the construction of the raft and life jackets. He had been assigned painting duties on the roof, which gave him time to work on their escape tools, while the guards were not paying close attention. By the end of May 1962, the trio's preparations were nearly complete. They had a workable raft, life jackets, and a plan to escape through a ventilator shaft that led to the roof. They had even constructed a makeshift drill to remove the ventilator cover. Their plan was set for the night of June 11th, 1962. The escape was designed to coincide with a routine evening count, during which they planned to leave their cells and make their way to freedom. The escape plan was as ambitious as it was detailed, reflecting the high stakes and the skillful planning that went into it. The men were determined to outsmart the prison security, and the groundwork they laid was a testament to their ingenuity and resolve. The night of June 11th, 1962, marked the culmination of months of careful planning and preparation for Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin. As the prison settled into its nighttime routine, the trio prepared to execute their daring escape from Alcatraz, the so-called escape-proof prison. By evening, the three men had moved stealthily through the prison's ventilation system, each carrying the essential gear they had spent months preparing. The air vents in their cells had been widened to allow them passage, and they used makeshift tools to remove the covers and gain access to the utility corridor behind their cells. With the corridor cleared, they moved cautiously but efficiently. Their first significant hurdle was reaching the roof of the cell block. From the corridor, they climbed a series of pipes and makeshift ladders to get to the top of the building. Once on the roof, they prepared to descend the prison's outer walls. They used a large exterior pipe to slide down about 50 feet to the ground, a risky maneuver that required precision and timing. From the base of the pipe, they navigated the steep, jagged terrain of the island's shore to reach their raft. The men had constructed the raft from stolen raincoats, stitching and sealing it to withstand the rough waters of San Francisco Bay. They also carried with them their homemade life jackets, also crafted from raincoats, which they donned as they prepared to launch the raft. Their final preparation involved inflating the raft using a tool they had fashioned from a musical instrument. Despite their careful preparations, they faced a significant challenge: the cold, turbulent waters of the bay and the strong currents that could easily overpower them. As they launched their raft into the water, the men faced the harsh reality of their situation. The water was frigid, and the currents were unpredictable. Their planned route took them towards Angel Island, which they intended to use as a staging point before making their way to the mainland. The men had hoped to swim from Angel Island to Marin County, where they planned to steal clothes and a car to blend in with the public. The raft was a makeshift vessel, constructed from raincoats and secured with rubber bands. Although it was a remarkable achievement of their ingenuity, it was not built for long, dangerous journeys across open water. The men's hope was that their preparation and careful planning would overcome these obstacles. On the night of June 11th, as they set their raft afloat, it was clear that their escape plan was in full motion. They paddled away from Alcatraz, their raft barely visible against the dark waters of the bay. As they drifted further from the island, their movements became harder to track. The next morning, a routine cell block head count revealed the escape. Guards found that the 3 cells where Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin had been sleeping were now occupied by dummy heads made of plaster, flesh-tone paint, and real human hair. The guards immediately raised the alarm, and the prison went into lockdown. The realization that the escape had been successful, but its outcome unknown, set off an intensive search. Authorities scrambled to piece together the escapees' route and whereabouts, while the prison and surrounding areas became a focal point for an urgent manhunt. The search efforts were complicated by the challenging geography of San Francisco Bay and the uncertainty surrounding the men's ultimate fate. Despite the extensive planning and effort put into their escape, the crucial question remained: did they make it across the bay, or did they succumb to the treacherous waters? The mystery of their escape was just beginning to unfold. The alarm raised by the discovery of the dummy heads in the cells on June 12, 1962, launched one of the most intense manhunts of the time. The authorities quickly realized the gravity of the situation. 3 dangerous criminals had managed to escape from what was considered an impregnable fortress. As the prison went into lockdown, a massive investigation began to determine the fate of Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin. Initially, the search focused on Alcatraz Island and the immediate area. Prison guards and FBI agents scoured the island for any signs of the escapees. They examined every inch of the cells, corridors, and rooftops, looking for clues that might indicate where the men had gone. The meticulous efforts included searching through the water surrounding the island, although the vastness and rough conditions of San Francisco Bay made this task extremely challenging. Authorities began to piece together the escape route from the evidence found in the cells. The enlarged air vents and the fake grills hidden with papier-mâché revealed the ingenuity of the escape plan. The search team also discovered tools used in the escape, such as spoons converted into makeshift saws and a vacuum motor used to create a homemade drill. The detailed work on the ventilation system showed the level of preparation that had gone into the escape. Given the sophisticated nature of the escape, investigators turned their attention to finding the raft and other equipment used by the escapees. Fragments of rubber and parts of the life jackets and raft were found floating in the water near the Angel Island, the intended intermediate destination. These findings suggested that the escapees had indeed made it into the water, but their ultimate success remained uncertain. The investigation expanded beyond the Bay Area. The FBI, Coast Guard, and Bureau of Prisons collaborated to track down any leads related to the escapees. They interviewed relatives of the Anglin brothers and Frank Morris, hoping to gather information on their possible whereabouts or connections. The search also extended to checking for any reported thefts or unusual activities that might indicate the escapees had reached the mainland. Despite the thorough efforts, the search did not uncover any significant evidence that the men had survived. The FBI, which was heavily involved in the investigation, faced several challenges. The strong currents, cold temperatures, and unpredictable weather conditions of the bay made it difficult to determine the exact fate of the escapees. The investigation was also complicated by the lack of solid leads on the escapees' whereabouts after their departure from Alcatraz. No credible reports emerged of them stealing clothes or vehicles, as they had planned. Additionally, no sightings or credible evidence indicated that they had successfully reached the mainland. Alan West, the inmate who had failed to escape, became a crucial informant. His detailed accounts of the escape plan provided valuable insights into the preparation and execution of the escape. West's testimony revealed the meticulous nature of the escapees' preparations and helped authorities understand the complexity of their plan. However, despite West's cooperation, the investigation did not yield concrete evidence about the fate of the escapees. As weeks turned into months and then years, the investigation continued but struggled to make significant progress. The search for the missing men persisted, but no new evidence surfaced to clarify their fate. The FBI officially closed its investigation on December 31st, 1979, handing over responsibility to the U.S. Marshals Service. The case remained open, and the Marshal Service continued to investigate, but the likelihood of finding the escapees or discovering their fate seemed increasingly remote. The mysterious disappearance of Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin continued to intrigue both the public and law enforcement. Despite extensive efforts and numerous theories, the ultimate outcome of their escape remained unresolved, leaving the question of whether they survived their daring escape or perished in the treacherous waters of San Francisco Bay unanswered. The daring escape of Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin from Alcatraz on June 11, 1962, has captivated the public imagination for decades. Despite exhaustive efforts by law enforcement, the ultimate fate of the three men remains a mystery. The investigation into their escape was one of the most intensive in American history. Authorities thoroughly searched Alcatraz Island, combed through San Francisco Bay, and pursued leads across the country. They analyzed the materials and equipment found, including the raft and life jackets, and considered every possible scenario regarding the escapees' fate. Yet, despite their efforts, no conclusive evidence emerged to prove whether the men survived or succumbed to the treacherous waters of the bay. The evidence recovered from the escape was both intriguing and perplexing. The fragments of rubber and other materials found near Angel Island suggested that the escapees had indeed launched their raft and attempted to cross the bay. However, the harsh conditions of the water, with its strong currents and frigid temperatures, posed significant challenges that made survival highly unlikely. The FBI closed its investigation on December 31st, 1979, citing a lack of credible evidence that the escapees had survived. Despite this, the U.S. Marshal Service continues to keep the case open, driven by the hope that new information might surface and provide clarity. As time has passed, the likelihood of finding the escapees alive has diminished, but the story of their escape remains a powerful and enduring part of Alcatraz's legacy. The closure of Alcatraz in 1963, less than a year after the escape, has only added to the intrigue surrounding the case. Some speculate that the escape played a role in the decision to shut down the prison, a testament to the high stakes and security concerns associated with the facility. Alcatraz's closure marked the end of an era for the infamous prison, but the legend of the escape lived on. The case of Morris, Anglin, and Anglin continues to inspire fascination and speculation. Numerous books, documentaries, and films have explored their story, each adding layers to the mythos surrounding their escape. The question of whether they made it to freedom or perished in the bay remains unresolved, leaving room for endless theories and debates. In the end, the story of the three Alcatraz escapees is a compelling tale of ingenuity, desperation, and mystery. Their attempt to break free from one of the most secure prisons in history, and the subsequent investigation that followed, underscores the lengths to which individuals will go in their quest for freedom. While the truth of their escape may never be fully known, their story endures as a testament to human determination and the enduring allure of unsolved mysteries.